Seriously?
Hello, 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 hello. How are you? My name is Josh Cashel. Welcome to another lesson here at Seriously English for Brazilians. It is my great pleasure to take you on another learning adventure to help you improve your English. And this lesson is going to be specifically about those times when you're lost. You can't think of that word and you're racking your brain trying to find the word that you want, but you just can't locate it. Well, I have a strategy for you that you can use that works almost a lot of the times, where you can find that word. And you can do this by using Portuguese. You can access your Portuguese and you're going to perform a little bit of surgery, some plastic surgery, snip some things here and tuck some other things there, and from Portuguese you arrive at the English word you're looking for. Now, why are you able to do this? Well, basically because of historical influences to English. A long time ago, we had a little thing called the French invasion, the Norman invasion of England. And the French came over and they conquered and they ruled for a few hundred years. And at that time, French dominated the English language and was highly influencing on the development of English. And if you didn't know this, a very interesting fact, French is basically just Latin. It's a dialect of Latin, and so is Portuguese, and so is Spanish, and so is Italian, and so is Romanian. All these languages, they're called Romance languages. And these languages developed after the Roman Empire spread all across Europe and left their influential Latin language on the European continent. And then when the French made their way to England, they invaded and took over, and French really had a significant influence. And French, as a Latin-based language, has a lot of similarities to Portuguese. So from English, we have a lot of corresponding words in Portuguese as well. So that's how we can access Portuguese. In our mind's eye, we look at that word, we can see it written, and then we can make the changes that I'm going to show you and arrive at the English version of that word. Now again, it doesn't work all the time. Some words simply don't have any corresponding English version. But what I tell my students all the time when they ask me, I can't find the word, I tell them, teasingly, jokingly, I say, if you can't find it, chuta, kick, take a guess. Just go for it. Make the leap, make this little transformation, and you never know, you might be right. And how awesome does it feel when you're unsure about something and then you take a little bit of that, you go a little bit farther than you're capable and you're successful. It's a really great feeling. So I'm going to stop talking now because I'm going to make a promise. I'm going to try to keep this short, but I'll probably end up breaking that promise. So let's move on to our first example, and we're going to see three different things. We're going to see this transformation for verbs, for nouns, and for adjectives. Okay, so let us continue. I'll see you in about 4 seconds. Okay, are you ready? I'm ready, let's do it. All right, as you can see, we're going to discuss this verb transformation, in this case with verbs. Now, we're going to look at the three types of verbs in Portuguese, the AR, ER, and IR verbs, which I had to learn all the different conjugations for them, all the 8 million different conjugations, thanks Portuguese. Well, what happens is, as I said, it doesn't work all the time, especially with irregular verbs, because they've changed and evolved so much over time, which is what makes them irregular, that there won't be a lot of correspondence between irregular verbs from Portuguese to English. So I'm going to focus more on a few cases where they do match. And then I'm going to show you where there is like a fuzzy similarity, where you can tell that there is a correspondence, but it's a little bit fuzzy in there. It's not 100%. So let us begin with our first verb, okay? And this verb in Portuguese is organizar. All right. We all know, you all know what organizar is in Portuguese. Duh. But what makes it the verb? All right? Sometimes we don't think about this. And this is where it's important. We need to see where the verbiness is of this verb. And it's right here. Here's your ending, this AR ending. And the transformation you need to do in your mind's eye, you're going to have to do this up in your brain. It's going to be reflected on the inside of your skull. And so you're going to see this, and you're going to make this operation very quickly, and you're going to arrive at, guess what? Here's the verb in English, to organize. Now, if you remove this, look what you've got. You've got something that's almost exactly the same. So that's where you can approximate the pronunciation. This may come out something like organiz, but within the context, that's pretty close. And you may get away with making that little pronunciation error, but you've got the verb that you were looking for. So organizar, to organize. Now, you're going to see this in two other examples, and the process is the same. So when you ever get stuck, just think of the verb in your mind's eye, remove that verbiness, and move on with the approximate pronunciation in English. Let's look at another example. All right. Hopefully I'm spelling this correctly. Compreender. This is an ER verb. We're going to perform the same operation. Compreender. What's the verbiness? What makes it a verb? This ER ending. Well, let's just get rid of it, cut it right out, and what do you have? Look at that. There's a lot of similarity. Comprehend. Compreender, comprehend. To comprehend. And here we have a little dissimilarity. This is where the pronunciation may differ a little bit. It's okay, you're getting close. To comprehend. I comprehend you. That's fine. You're going to understand that from the context. So that's an ER verb. Let's take a look at an IR verb here. And this is always important, especially when we're talking about your future. You need to investir no futuro. What's this word, investir? Investir, I need to, in my future. Well, again, let's perform the operation. Remove the verbiness, and what you have is literally the English spelling, to invest. Again, this works for a lot of verbs, but as we saw in comprender, to comprehend, it's not exact. This is a case where it's exact. It's wonderful. It's great. I love it when it happens. But let's take a look at an example where it's not perfect, okay? So, let's see here. Fluir. This is what water does. This is what a river does. But how do you say it in English? Well, if we follow our rule, we locate the verbiness to it. We locate this suffix here, remove it, and then we have flu. Well, we have the word flu. In English, it's a noun, and it's when you get really sick and you get a fever. But we don't have the word, the verb, to flu. But we do have this, to flow. And it's a really close approximation. Flu, flow. Okay, from context, you might be able to get it right. So the river flows. All right, that's pretty close. The river flows. Oh, I'm thinking of a song. The river flows to the sea. Oh, every lesson I have to have a song. I'm sorry. I'll stop. So this is an example where it's close, but not perfect. I'm going to give you another example here. Let's see. And this is a word we use a lot. And it's a pretty important thing when we're talking about business, when we're talking about careers, when we're talking about the environment, when we're talking about pretty much everything. We've got evoluir. Now, if we're going to follow the little rule, removing the verb here, we should have evolu. To evolue, well, unfortunately, that's not really very close. But if we add on a little bit and remove some bits and pieces, we've got what actually is the translation, to evolve. And a lot of my students have a problem with this evoluir. So even if I suggest that you try this transformative strategy, it's not going to work every time. And this is just a clear example of how it doesn't. It gets close, but maybe not close enough, even with context, to make the right choice. But again, in general, I've shown you, 5 verbs, and 4 of them have been really close. So what is that? It's 80%? Not bad. That's pretty good. So now what we're going to do, we're going to look at some nouns and adjectives together. And you'll see how we make the transformation and the results that we get. All right, we come now to nouns and adjectives. And we're going to use a similar surgical procedure to remove the Portuguesiness of these words and find a corresponding English word, something that's, if not perfect, very close to what you're looking for. So, I'm going to use a noun and adjective together. We're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I've mentioned this in another episode, and that means we're going to resolve 2 problems at the same time. Okay? So, let me see if I can do this correctly. Controvérsia with the accent absurda. Now, all of these words that I'm going to show you are real life cases where my students, I write all this stuff down. My students ask me, how do I say that? And I say, try it. Take a guess. Kick. No, don't kick. Guess. Take a stab. Take a chance. Go for it. Use that strategy that I showed you. So, in this case, what is the strategy? The same removal process. But instead of locating the verbiness, we're going to remove the final sound, the last little sound. So if we look at controvérsia, and I hope I spelled that correctly, controvérsia, is the last sound right here. So we're going to remove this. And then what do we have left over? Controversy. Well, let's take a look at this. Controversy. There it is. Controversy. Controvérsia, controversy. Just by removing that last sound, we have, at least the pronunciation of it, something very, very similar. Controversy, controversy. Now, absurda. What is absurda? Well, we follow the same guideline. Absurda, da is the last sound. Let's remove it. Look what we have. Literally, it's the same word in English, absurd. That's absurd. That is absurd that it's the same. Absurd in Portuguese is the same in English. Absurdo, absurd. Just removing that little sound at the end gives you the literal word in English. How absurd is that? But before we can do anything, we have to switch these around. So, uma controvérsia absurda becomes an absurd controversy. How amazing is that? How amazing is that? I'm getting excited just thinking about it. Okay, so I'll calm down. Let me give you another example here. Let me remove this. Okay, so we had an absurd controversy, and now we're going to look at, sorry, this is a silly example. Ritmo frenético. Okay, we have ritmo frenético. So let's do the operation. Let's perform surgery. Again, we're seeing these words, ritmo. How do you say ritmo in English? Well, it's there at the back of your skull there. What's the final sound of ritmo? O, O, O. It's not necessarily the letter, it's the sound that we're worried about. And then we remove that. And then we have the most absurd spelling of a word. This is why I don't think spelling is that important. It's so arbitrary in English because you have this, R-H-Y-T-H-M. Ritmo. If you remove that O, you have rhythm. Rhythm. In English, it's rhythm. We have this little sound going on. Rhythm. It's the rhythm of the night. It's 2 songs in one lesson. I'm very excited. And then we have this frenético. Well, let's perform surgery here. Frenético, remove that. And oh my gosh, absurdly, we have, this was not planned, frenetic. So we have ritmo frenético, rhythm frenetic, but grammar rules of English insist that you put the adjective before the noun, so you get a frenetic rhythm. Salsa, merengue, and samba, not samba, lambada, the forbidden dance, sometimes has a frenetic rhythm. All right, let's do one more example, and then I'm going to show you another thing. Okay, so let me remove this. And we have, okay, a lot of people in Brazil, to get a really good job, they have to do something called, oops, let me put that in red. Exame público. Exame público, yes. Well, why don't we try this? Exame. Well, let's remove that. And absurdly enough, you get this word exam in English. And notice that this X actually sounds like ovos, eggs, exam. And público, what's the last sound there? Remove it. I can't believe it. This was not planned, but we have almost exactly the same thing in English. So, exame público is exam public. Let's switch it. A public exam. Now, there's actually another word for that in English. It's like I can't remember what it is right now. It's not important, but what we're looking for here is finding the right word in English from the Portuguese. And we have one more for you. Let's see. And recently we've been having a lot of manifestações against the government. And one of the ways that you demonstrate your disgruntledness, your unhappiness with the government, is to protest. All right? Is to have a manifestação, a protest. And one way to do that is to have a what's it called in Portuguese? Passeata. So, uma passeata, a march, is a forma de protesto. All right. So, again, forma de protesto. Let's find the last sound. And we have the English form. It's the same again. Form de, we should know, is of protesto. Let's remove that, protesto. So marching is a form of protest against the government, against something that society is unhappy with. So again, this is a way that you can just perform a quick surgery on the word. And you can do this in your brain really rapidly. Once you know the strategy, once you use it, you can do this quickly and you're going to get something really, really close. In a lot of cases, like I've shown you, you get the exact word. That's pretty cool. Don't even have to try that hard. So it's there for you. It's a strategy that's accessible. Use it. And there are a lot of people who are against translation. Like, don't translate, it's bad. That's silliness. If you have this resource, use it. It's free, it's readily available, and it works a lot of the time. So I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. As I can see, it's not short at all. It's like 20 minutes. I'm so sorry, but I can't stop talking. If you have enjoyed this, like it, subscribe, do all of that stuff. But what I hope you get out of it most is something new that you didn't know before. A little nugget of information that will help you in your English journey. Okay? Leave a comment if you want. I'd be happy to answer it if I get it. And I will see you next lesson. Cheers.
Seriously?